Hello everyone. Today I am making a palette for the Northern Lights. Last week we had some pretty amazing Northern Lights in the upper Midwest, and I got quite a few pictures from friends and family that I thought would be appropriate for painting. And so I need to figure out which versions of the colors I'm going to be using. My palette today consists of phthalo blue, so phthalocyanine blue, and then magenta and primary yellow. So for the Northern Lights, I'm only going to be focusing on the greens and the pinks. So I'm not going to be mixing my magenta with my yellow. I'm just going to be mixing the yellow with the phthalo, and then I'm going to be mixing those different green combinations with the white to find the different brightnesses that are appropriate for the Northern Lights. And then I'm going to mix the magenta with the white to see which color kind of matches the Northern Lights the best. I also crossed out the Mars black. I always leave a spot for black on my palette, but for this particular color blending exercise, I don't actually need black. So the way that I mix my shades of green, I've got 3 parts yellow on the far right, 2 parts yellow in the middle, and then 1 part yellow on the far left. And I'm mixing quite a bit more yellow with the blue just because phthalo is pretty strong, as you will see. I use the back of a paintbrush to mix my colors, and as you can see, all 3 versions of the phthalo primary yellow look pretty similar. So the 3 greens are so similar that I can't pick just from the 3 greens that I've mixed. So I am going to mix all 3 of those with uh, different amounts of white to see which one shows up on the black canvas the best. At this point in the video, I try to make piles of white the same way that I would mix colors, and I end up with way too much white paint on my palette, which is pretty wasteful. So if I were to do this video over again, if I were to do this palette over again, or if you're trying to learn how to mix paints and mix with whites and darks and different colors, I would recommend not using this much white on your palette. For this next part, I'm going to start with just 1 part of the dark color with 1 part white. Next, I'm going to be mixing a darker version of that same green, so roughly 2 parts green to the 1 part white. And for my third test, I'm simply putting the green right on the black just to see what it looks like. Now, right off the bat, I would say of the 3 values, I feel like the top and the middle one are the closest to what Northern Lights look like. The colors don't really show up that great on the camera, but it's a good idea of which values look best. Next, I'm going to repeat the same process with the other two greens. Now, as I'm looking at these different versions of green, I feel that the middle version is the closest to the pictures that I was getting from friends and family. And these colors might not show up as great on video, so I definitely encourage you to play around with these colors on your own palettes if you are into painting. So my kind of perfect green for these Northern Lights type of paintings is going to be 2 parts primary yellow to 1 part phthalo. Well, I know that the phthalo blue is going to be much too blue for this painting. I still was just curious to see what colors I would get by doing the same process with straight blue. And I actually really like the way that the blue looks on the very dark, just straight phthalo blue on Mars black. Really like how that looks. I think I might, if I do a Northern Lights canvas, I think I might actually use a little bit of black with phthalo blue just to give that the black color a little bit depth. Finally, I am using magenta. So magenta just has a very good match. Just out of the tube, it looks very similar to the Northern Lights colors, and so I just went with the magenta, and I'm adding in versions of white with that. Excuse me. And honestly, out of the versions, the tints of magenta, I'm going with the darkest tint that I have. I feel like the Northern Lights are pretty dark. I could possibly add a few of the lighter streaks, but I could probably even go darker than what I went with on a painting. Please remember to like and subscribe and share this with any of your friends or family members that are interested in some easy painting how-tos, and we will see you in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.